Hey everybody, it's Dr. Cindy Stark coming in. I'm in a different location today. I feel like I'm going to be in a different location a lot coming up right now. And so I'm really hoping that the connectivity is good and that everybody can hear me and see me as you come. Could please type hashtag live if you're coming in live and hashtag replay if you're coming in on the replay and let me know that you're here. And I always love to hear where you're from. So add that too. And as always, I'm going to make this shareable. I'll make the audience public so that if any of this resonates with you, you can share it onto your timeline because chances are, if it resonates with you, it'll resonate with other people, friends, and family on your page. And it is my goal and my wish and my dream to actually get out into the whole entire world ways that we can become our own best healer. I think as a doctor, what I noticed over time is that so many people thought that the only way they could get to true health is to come and visit me. And nothing could be further from the truth. And it's my passion and my wish, like I said, is to be a beacon of hope so that you know that you can be your own great physician. God puts within us tools to help us heal. And so I'm going to be talking today about something that I think a lot of us suffer from. I think it's estimated that 25% of Americans suffer from anxiety, and at any one given time, and over a lifetime, I know for me, myself, and it's been a lot more frequent than that. And so, if any of you suffer from anxiety, that's all that I'm going to be talking about today. So, I'm the CEO and owner and founder of Soul Circle Academy. I have this it's a group transformational health program that not only gets rid of um, all of the ways that our subconscious mind is kind of blocking us from living the life that we want. But then I also, um, uh, sorry, getting a phone call here. I also help people rewire their subconscious mind, literally recode it and rewire it so that they will live from a place of their own passion and purpose and from really our own unique playbook that God gives us to live how He wants us to design our life and the mission that He gives each and every one of us uniquely for our lives in our circle of influence. And so it's based on my transformational health program is based on um, going in and removing any childhood trauma that any of us have. And it can be childhood trauma that we were, it doesn't have to be that you were raped or kidnapped or bullied or anything like that. It can even just be things like um, that your teachers were criticizing you or not making you believe in yourself enough, or that your friends kind of excluded you from social events, or that your mom and dad, sisters and brothers, you just didn't have a cohesive family unit, or that your mom and dad were divorced, or that you had to move states in the middle of your childhood. Any of that stuff can create abandonment wounds and all kinds of childhood trauma. And I always say that childhood trauma is not what happened to us in that moment when it occurred, is what we tell ourselves about ourselves for decades and decades. And it's how we actually uh, just just poison our stamina in this world and our force in this world to live our lives the way that we want to live our lives. So you can absolutely just trash your life over and over and over again by what you let that trauma that you endured as a child, what you let it tell yourself about yourself, untruths and lies, and then you live yourself based on that figment of your imagination over and over and over again. And excuse the background noise. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but I'm in a home health business this morning. We're doing Reiki healing on 15 people this whole week, and so I'm just kind of in a little back cubicle. So sorry for that. Anyway, all of my trainings build on each other. Today, like I said, I'm talking about anxiety, and you can find all the old trainings out in my. They live in my business page. It's called Reclaim Your Health and Life, and it's under the featured tabs at the top. Okay, so again, anxiety is one of our top emotions. So our emotions are housed in gestalts, and the gestalts are fear and anger and sadness and guilt. And then what anxiety is, it's a top emotion from fear. So when you are just a little bit afraid and you have a little bit of fear over and over and over again, and then it spills out. So the very first time you were afraid and you had fear, let's just say that was at age 2, and every single time that you're afraid of something, it builds up in that gestalt of fear until you live at the top emotion. And what happens is that top emotion is anxiety, okay? And you will actually one of two things will happen when your gestalt gets full. You'll either revert back to how you behaved the very first time that you felt that fear, which is probably at age 2 or 7 years old. Who wants to go around acting like a 2 or 7 year old? Or you go and you'll get sick. So the way to not live at the top of those gestalts is to heal yourself. Again, I want to impress upon you today that you are your own medicine, and that 96% of your life is run by the subconscious mind. And depending on your life and your ability to regulate that gestalt of fear, then your bag fills up. And like I said, you revert back to how you were when you were 2 or 7. And then you just end up self sabotaging because what kind of life can you live when you're at the top of your emotions? You really can't when you're like a rageaholic because anger is filled up, or when you're anxious and you're having anxiety attacks every day. I know some people who literally can't even go to the grocery store or into any kind of public place because they're having anxiety attacks every day. I see them in the emergency room all the time. So if you go to a doctor and you are operating from full gestalts, he or she will, gladly put you on a medicine to kind of numb up that rage or that anxiety, or like when sadness overspills, it turns into depression, or when guilt overspills, it turns into shame. And so doctors, what we will end up doing is kind of giving you a medicine to numb up that very top emotion, right? So I just want you to think about it, whether you're here live or whether you're catching it on the replay. Think about ways that anxiety can show up for you. I'll tell you some things I've seen in my clients. You get palpitations in the middle of the night that wake you up at like 3 in the morning. You can have overwhelm, where there's so much going on in your life that you can't even get one thing done because you're so overwhelmed thinking about it all. Feeling multiple emotions at the exact same time, where it almost makes you feel panicked at any given time. Worrying, ruminating over the worst case scenario that could happen in any given situation. Being paralyzed, being confused, having crying spells all the time, being frantic, just trying to control everything in everybody's lives because you're too worried about your own life. And what I'm trying to tell you guys is that the top emotions that you feel, those are fire alarms. And so when you hear a fire alarm, what is the first thing that you want to do? Do you want to like go and pull the batteries out of the fire alarm so the fire alarm just stops going off, which in my opinion is what medications do? Or do you want to go look for the fire and get rid of the fire? That's what recoding and rewiring the subconscious mind does. It actually finds where the fire is and gets rid of it and gets rid of the damage that it's doing, instead of just pulling the batteries out of the fire alarm. So I always tell my clients that what our emotions are here for. They're here to communicate with us and to teach us things that are important. When we have an emotion, These lights are really bright above me. I feel like it looks like this eye over here is just swollen shut. It's not. It's just really, really bright fluorescent lights where I am. Very something that you need to pay attention to. And if all you're doing is living at your top emotions, so depression and anxiety and shame and rage, you're dying a slow death. What kind of life is that, to be living your life just always depressed, anxious, raging, and full of shame? But what happens is when we're living at those top emotions, then our amygdala is going to be responsible for everything that we kind of put out onto the world. And I know a lot of us have heard about fight or flight, and that's like your sympathetic nervous system. Fights when you're like fighting a system, like a situation that you're in, or flight is when you just give up and you run away. Well, there's actually two other ones, and that's freeze and faint. So if y'all are coming back in here on the replay, tell me what it is that you do. Do you typically, when you're in a really stressful situation, do you fight? Do you flee? Do you freeze, or do you faint? And by faint, I mean you just get completely and utterly exhausted, and so you go to sleep for like 4 hours in the middle of the day, or you can't even get out of bed for like a week. And then by freeze, I just mean like you're just kind of like paralyzed. You're not fighting or fleeing. You're just kind of frozen. And you're so overwhelmed that you just completely shut down. So tell me what it is that's your go-to thing that your amygdala seems to end up doing whenever you get so anxious that you can't handle life anymore. And I also want to tell you that everybody that comes into me, you're on a continuum, right? And I always say people that are over here, they're just now learning um, um, that there's a problem in their life. They're beginning to learn how their brain works, and I am so happy to support you over here with my free teachings. I come in here every single week and teach something about how to work this beautiful, wonderful, amazing brain that we're equipped with. So if you're at the beginning of the continuum, that's what I'm here for. But if you're all the way over here and you're ready to heal, then I just want you to know at the end, I'm going to have a call to action and a way to get in touch with me if you're really ready to stop living at the top of all your emotions and stop feeling like you are not in control of how your life is going, and you know the kind of life that you want, but you're just not getting there. Then I'll tell you exactly how to get in touch with me at the end of this, because I think what ends up happening is that so many of us, we know that we're anxious, we know that we're sad, we know that we're not doing what we want to do, but we have no idea. All we know to do is read a book or go to a doctor or join a support group, and we have no idea how to actually go in and get rid of that childhood trauma to recreate the life that we want to. Our subconscious mind is here to support us, okay? It's here to protect you. So for a lot of our lives, in order to help us survive and thrive, it will repress things that it cannot handle processing. And if you notice that you're at a phase in your life right now, your subconscious mind is actually bringing things up for resolution, then that means it's finally telling you that you're at a phase of your life right now where it's safe to heal. And the things that were repressed for so many years and so many decades, you need emotional availability and safety to heal. And if things are getting brought up right now that happened to you when you were a child, or things that are coming to your awareness, that's really good, because that means that you're on your path to healing, and you're on your path to getting where you want to go. So you don't have to keep struggling. You have to learn to manage your emotions. The one thing that I see so many people doing, especially that are anxious, they just end up coping with their anxiety. And like I said before, if they're in fight, flight, freeze, or faint, then they end up just kind of almost becoming a recluse and just staying in their house where they don't have to deal with anything. And because if you're not putting yourself out into the world, then you're just coping by numbing yourself up and staying in your own predictable environment at home, and you just kind of give up on life. A lot of people are sleeping a lot. A lot of people will numb up with sex. A lot of people will numb up with being really busy, and they get so busy that they end up self sabotaging because they actually get sick. They'll end up drinking alcohol, overeating, over exercising. Ask me how I know. For 2 years, I worked out 21 hours a week to prepare for an Ironman because I wasn't wanting to really face some stuff that was going on with me with my interpersonal relationships. So just so easy to be so distracted by exercise. So all I'm telling you is that these problems are going to keep coming up over and over again until you deal with it, or else you're going to get sick and you're going to end up kind of hitting a roadblock. And that alarm system, God put it in our brains He built that into our brains to help us know when enough is enough. And if you keep pushing that down with things that are making you busy, it's going to get your attention one day. And it breaks my heart when people's attention is gotten by being in the hospital and they end up seeing me in the hospital setting, because then that's when God really makes you slow down, and then you're kind of tied to, not tied physically, but tied you know what's that word, figuratively, to a hospital bed, getting needles jammed in your arm and stuff put down your nose. And it's just so sad when people have to kind of get their attention like that. So until we actually take the time to rewire our brain, it's gonna take the path of least resistance, and it's gonna keep either, like I said before, either getting sick or handling your emotions at like a 2 year old or a 7 year old level. And what has ruined most of my clients' lives, again, like I said earlier, is not what happened to them, but it's what they let themselves be told by their subconscious mind about what happened to them, especially that they're unlovable and that they're unworthy. And those belief systems of I am unlovable and I am unworthy can wreck your life for decades. Hey, Patty, it's good to see you here. I'm so glad you're catching it live. What we think happens in our subconscious mind and in our brain and how we process everything is that things come into our vision with our eyes, and it bypasses our conscious brain, which is here in our frontal lobe, and it gets stored exactly verbatim into our subconscious mind, as it really actually is. But what ends up happening and how our brain actually works is that when it comes in through our eyes, it bypasses our thinking brain, and before it gets stored into our subconscious mind, it goes through our unique filtering systems of our parental programming, societal programming, religious programming, and academic programming, social programming, all these programmings, okay? And only then does it get sent back to our frontal lobe as a memory. And so that is actually after the event has been deleted and generalized and distorted to match that information that's in our wiring of I'm unworthy and I'm unlovable. So if you think of, there's like 2 million bits of information every second that comes into our brain. Our frontal lobe can only process 126 bits a second. So think about that. It's like 6 orders of magnitude that has to be deleted, generalized, and distorted. And the only way it does it is to match exactly what is in that filtering system by our unique childhood. And so think what you remember is actually what happened, but it's only a figment. We are all literally living a figment of our imagination. And I'd have to put 2 million over 126, but that's a fraction, a tiny, exponentially, infinitely small fraction of what's actually there is what we actually remember. And so when I got healing back in 2020, ultimate healing, I had been trying to heal myself and some patterns of behavior that I had been undergoing since age 18 that were causing me a lot of damage and a lot of sadness. Hey, Michelle, it's good to see you, girl. I had spent over $100,000, and that's not even in the time that I'd spent. That was just in counselors and doctors' offices and programs. And when I found this program and I finally realized that I actually had the power to change everything that I most hated about what was going on in my life, I said, I'm getting certified in these tools. And I told God, I will heal every one of your people that you bring to me. God brought you here to me. And it's going to take clearing out your reticular activating system and not learning for once and for all how to not live from that amygdala state of fight and flight and freeze and faint. And if you don't believe that our subconscious mind deletes and generalizes and distorts things, think about how many times have you ever been through where you're looking for your keys and they're in your hand, or you're looking all over the house for your sunglasses and they're on your head. Well, that happens because our body is taking on all these bits of information, but those two bits got deleted because they weren't important at the time. And once you clear out your reticular activating system, and you're not actually living from those overflowing emotions, and you can finally see everything that is possible in your life. And when your reticular activating system is clear, you can ignite your gifts and your passion and see everything for the first time. And if you once you're able to actually regulate those bags of emotions and those gestalts, then you're actually able to live your life based on choice. It's what you choose to do. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't think there's any choice when you're in a panic attack or when you're raging. I know sometimes I've been so mad, it's almost like my whole body was just like, it felt like cold water running down my body because I was just like so enraged. And sometimes I couldn't swallow for 12 hours. I was just so mad. And so, what kind of life is that to live? And that's why I knew if this was happening to me in my 50s, I know it has to be happening to other people. And what it takes is loving yourself and loving all of yourself. You got to stop denying that this whole entire part of you exists. Stop just playing all these different roles that we have and wearing all these hats that we wear. And you have to actually dive deep and be willing to give yourself that love, and 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 find out all that highest wisdom that's inside your brain that God gave you, because that highest wisdom that's in there, it's going to prompt you into action, and it's going to let you learn how your emotions are here to support you. They're not here against you. And I think about, what are some of the prices that we pay by letting anxiety rule us? I know I've missed out on a lot of social engagements. I've not been able to eat, like I just said, like I literally couldn't swallow for 12 hours. Some of my relationships have suffered tremendously. Jobs, anybody at your job, whether it's coworkers or patients or clients, um, if you want to be able to show up in full integrity in your life, you have to be able to resource yourself, okay? And you got to just stop letting your emotions get you to that point where everything's kind of screaming and raging. The the actual solution is to treat that underlying fear. You got to remember that first time that you felt fear, and resource that little inner child of yourselves. There's so many of our inner children that have been silenced for decades, and we just kind of like act like and pretend like they don't exist. And once we actually remember who they are and that they exist, and we can resource that version of ourselves, then you're rewiring and retraining your brain between like your younger self and now, so that you can see the difference between what is true and false. And again, tap into that inner wisdom of when you were a much, much younger version of yourself. Yes, Hannah, you know, anxiety affects everything. It affects the way you're able to sleep. It affects the way, my goodness, I have this one person that I know who shall remain nameless. Your skin is the largest organ in your body. And this person, whenever they get anxious, especially about things in the news, especially after 9/11 happened, 21 years ago almost, 21 years ago, um, they would break out in hives all over their body, and their blood pressure would go sky high too. And there was no cream you could put on that person's skin to get rid of those rashes, because it was on the inside and how they were processing all of that anxiety from thinking about what was going on. You can't affect how that other country hated us, right? And but it was showing up in the skin, and they would have done anything to get rid of that rash on their skin. So again, the gestalt of fear, when it overspills and it's not regulated, it will spill out into anxiety. And if you can't get a hold of it, you'll either get sick, like I'm telling you, like that rash, or you'll end up acting like that first age that you were when it started getting filled up. And this deep inner work really matters. And I want to really empower each and every one of you that you can heal yourself. And um, the reason I created this program is so I can support people while they heal themselves so they're no longer codependent on the medical system or others. I know some people think they don't have this inner wisdom to be able to make good decisions, so they ask like five people every important decision they have to make in their life. They ask like five people, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? Because they don't think they have the inner wisdom to make that decision on their own. And once you know that you are there for yourself and you can make the best decision for yourself, that your whole world opens up. And again, the purpose of anxiety is that last minute fire alarm, and it's going to start going off earlier and earlier, and not when you to the fact that to the point where you can't sleep or you can't eat or your skin is like in broken out in a rash. It'll start uh, you know firing off earlier and earlier, so you can actually do something productive with it. Set a boundary, remove yourself from a situation, have a difficult conversation with someone, and that makes all the difference in the world. I just want to impress upon you guys this morning that the last thing I think you should ever do, it's just me, I own my own opinions, this is not the opinion of um, a lot of doctors, but you can either fight for your diagnosis or you can fight for your healing. And in my opinion, you really can't do both, because if all you do is fight for your diagnosis, then you're just going to end up getting on bottles of pills and stuck in this revolving door of the medical system. And if you can fight for your healing, then you can do that yourself. Then you own that healing, and no one can take that away from you. So Michelle's saying, treat yourself when you are anxious like a parent who is comforting a child. That is how we need to treat our inner children. That's right. I mean, I think about it sometimes when I get when I get really anxious about things, and I just get mad at myself, and I'll criticize myself. This was old Cindy. I would just criticize myself for being like that, and I'm like, why did you think like that? That was so stupid. You didn't need to go overboard. But like, if it was my child that was being like that, I would never tell her she was stupid or that she shouldn't feel that way. I would like see it from her point of view, and um, you know, like you said, comfort her and let her know that everything she's feeling is valid. And so Hannah's saying, I've been struggling lately with my career choices because of the anxiety of it all. Self doubt. I'm starting to parent myself. This is what I want. And if I give into the anxiety, the opportunity would be gone. That's right. And the more that you, Hannah, start parenting yourself and dealing with that self doubt, make sure to tell um, all three of your kids what you're doing so that they learn those tools too. Because then you can affect not only the generation of your children, but then your future grandchildren too, because you're giving them those tools too. And I think that's what's so great about this work, is that once we are able to really heal ourselves for the first time, and especially, I mean, I don't even think we have to be vocal and talk about it to our kids. They're just going to see the difference. But then if they ask questions and you tell them exactly what you're doing, then you're equipping them, and then you're therefore equipping all of your grandkids. So it's just a beautiful thing. So again, if you're ready for real healing and not just putting band-aids on things, if you want to actually change your life, you're going to have to attack that subconscious mind in the most loving way. Like, attack it with all the bullets and the swords and the bombs and the cannons in a very loving way. We're just going to go in there and obliterate all of those old pathways, because if we don't get rid of those old pathways, then our subconscious just kind of keeps behaving and operating from the pathway of least resistance. And the pathway of least resistance in our brain is whoever has the biggest myelin sheath. And these myelin sheath are these fatty, lipid laden pathways that it just is really easy for the nerve impulses to go down these. It's like a super speed highway, whatever that thing, what's that called, the autobahn? I don't know, but there's like super speed highways over in Europe. And Those are the things that have been in our brain ever since we were, from age 2 to 7. 95% of our belief systems were created by the time we were 7. It's just when we were sponges and in this alpha state of living our lives, excuse me. And so those are the ones that are coated in all the good myelin sheaths. And then if we go in there lovingly with the cannons and the explosives, and then we create the new neural pathways, then we're actually operating from a place of ease and flow and loving ourselves, and we're able to uh, live our lives based on kind of like our gifts and talents that are uniquely there for us and what we were meant to have here on earth. Hey Stacy, thank you for making it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up here. I just want you to give yourself permission right now to do and be and have anything that you want in life. Because anything that you are dreaming about, if you can dream about it, you can live it. And anything that God is putting into your brain of things that you might be jealous that you see somebody else doing it, it means it's there for you, okay? If it's capturing attention and any kind of traction in your life and you're noticing it, that means it's there available for you. So again, if you're ready to live your life based on your playbook uniquely designed for you, please either just contact me by dropping me a DM on Facebook, or I'll also put my email address in here, Cindy@therealdrcindy.com. And we're going to book a call. It'll be like 45 minutes or an hour. And we'll see if you're ready. Because if you're so sick and tired of living from those top gestalt emotions of just feeling like, goodness gracious, 80% of your energy is just built just like, kind of in rage or anxiety, or just crying your eyes out because you're so sad. That is not how we were meant to live our lives, guys. There's so much more around the corner. Every single bit of everything available for you lies on the other side of you saying yes to healing yourself. And it will be my honor and pleasure to usher you into the best version of yourself. So again, I'm living in the DM. So if this sounds interesting to you, share this on your page, reach out to me, and let's talk. But I love you guys, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Have a great day.